Israel on Saturday said it would ban the entry of all foreigners into the country, making it the first country to shut its borders completely in response to a new and potential more contagious coronavirus variant, and said it would use counter-terrorism phone tracking technology in order to contain the spread of the Omicron variant. Israel's Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said in a statement that Shin Bet, the counter-terrorism agency's phone tracking technology, will be used to locate carriers of the new variant in order to curb its transmission to others. Joining me now to discuss this further is Middle East expert based in Tel Aviv, Mr. Tom Gross. Tom, thanks for joining us here on A News. This is obviously this Omicron variant is worrying for everybody else. But how's Israel sort of reacted straight away by closing its borders? Is this premature, or is this the right move that other countries should follow suit with, do you think?
Well, opinion here is divided. I mean, I personally think it is premature and possibly an overreaction, but the authorities would argue that they've been very quick to react throughout the almost 2 years of the pandemic, and that has kept the death toll very low in Israel. The population here is about 9 million, and approximately 8,000 people have died since March 2020, which is low. I mean, if you compare it to other countries with the same population, for example, the Czech Republic, they have the same population but 32,000 deaths, so 4 times higher. So some people would say that the only way to make sure you keep the virus under control is to take these rather draconian measures, such as making it harder to enter the country, even for Israeli citizens, not just for foreigners.
Indeed, indeed. And how's the international community, or the community, or the Israeli community itself, really reacted to this phone tracking technology? It seems like a touchy or a delicate situation where it could go either way. Too much phone tracking, avoiding our self-security and the rest.
Yes, I don't think anybody really likes the use of such extreme measures. There are lots of civil liberty questions. It raises lots of civil liberty issues. The Shin Bet, the organization, the Domestic Security Service, which will be doing the phone tracking, promises it will be very limited, for a very limited period of time, and only for people who are positive with the virus, and it's limited only to make sure they don't leave their places of isolation. In other words, if their phones travel away from wherever they're self-isolating, the authorities will know. So that's what they assure the public. They won't be listening to calls or something like that. It will be simply to make sure people don't break the rules and leave quarantine.
It's a slippery slope, though. Has the public reacted in a way that's favourable, or have they voiced their concerns? Has anybody really stood up against this?
Well, there's a big Jewish holiday, the 8-day festival of Hanukkah. It starts this evening, which is at sunset in 2 or 3 hours from now. So for 8 days, lots of families will be gathering, lighting candles, eating donuts and other such, saying some prayers if they're religious and so on. So I think people are more concerned in making sure the Hanukkah festival continues, and the government says the measures won't affect that. And in my view, some of the other measures are slightly populist measures by the government to give the sense to the population that they're doing something, rather than actually putting limits on the numbers that will gather for Hanukkah festivities, which could be events where the virus spreads. But I should also mention that Israel has the virus under control compared to most countries at the present time. There are only about 500 people a day testing positive, which is much lower than in Europe, for example, or most of the rest of the world. And they want to protect this situation where the virus is low, which is why they want to limit the ability to enter the country. That's the idea. It's a little bit like Australia and New Zealand, who do similar measures. people who are not affected personally by it and were not planning traveling or are not working in tourism or international business probably don't mind these measures. Anybody who was planning travel for business or vacation or any other such reason, obviously they're very annoyed by this, yes.
Indeed. Is there any worry that this is maybe a precursor, as winter is arriving now soon, that things could get worse, not just with this virus, but I don't know, COVID-19 in general, that lockdowns are coming? I mean, when we look at the UK, when we look at other European countries, especially Austria, people are looking to lock down quite quickly. Could Israel follow suit as well, and could this be a precursor to that?
I don't think Israel will be locking down because they have it under control compared to Europe. And of course, this being the Middle East, there isn't a cold winter in the way that there is in Austria. So people are still able to sit outside or conduct activities outside. I was out earlier today and the cafes are full, and there are even people on the beach. It's 27 degrees centigrade here. So it's a different weather pattern to most of Europe. And Israel went through many lockdowns, and last year kids didn't go to school, and I don't think anyone wants to repeat that. So I think the government will do everything possible, both for economic reasons, but also to prevent, school children not having education. I should also point out that Israel is one of the first countries in the world to start vaccinating younger children. They started a week ago vaccinating 5 to 11-year-olds. So far, I understand about 100,000 younger children were vaccinated. Many children in the 12 to 15-year-old age bracket have already received even 2 vaccines. So Israel is ahead of most countries in doing this. And I think they're confident they can avoid a lockdown. One other thing I'd say is that last year, many countries, including Austria, since you mentioned Austria, did actually follow the Israeli examples. So yes, if Israel shuts the airport, other countries may shut airports. But my sense is many in the public are increasingly frustrated by this, both in Israel and elsewhere, and they want more evidence that the new variant really is more dangerous than the existing Delta variant. And we hear from South African doctors that those with the new variant have mild symptoms. So I don't think we're yet to see any real evidence that this new variant is worse than the existing variants.
Indeed, let's hope it's not. And we can just brush past this, otherwise it really has taken over our lives, this COVID-19. Tom Gross, thanks so much for joining us here on A News. Always a pleasure talking to you, sir. Stay safe, stay well.